She's not just a singer, she's not just an actress. Barbra Streisand is a Hollywood legend, a Broadway powerhouse, and the only artist in history to top the charts in every single decade since the 1960s. Her dazzling smile, her unmistakable voice, her unforgettable presence, all of it made her the funny girl the world fell in love with. But behind the curtain, behind the gowns, behind the golden spotlight, there has always been another story. A quieter, more painful story, one marked by heartbreak, a marriage that never gave her what she needed, and a wound she's carried in silence for most of her life. At 83, Barbra has begun to open up about the emotional toll of a love that couldn't last, about the shadows her first marriage left behind, and about the way those scars shaped everything that followed. Barbra's journey didn't begin with applause. It began with absence. Born in Brooklyn in April 1942, she was just 15 months old when tragedy struck. Her father, Emmanuel, died suddenly after a medical error during treatment for an epileptic seizure. The loss left her without a father's voice, without his touch, without even a photograph to remember him by. She would later recall, with raw honesty, "There was never a photograph of my father in the house. It was as if he never existed. All that remained were his books, tied in string and shoved away into the basement, memories boxed and buried." Her mother Diana, overwhelmed by grief and depression, could not provide the warmth or affection a child so desperately needs. By 1949, Diana remarried, introducing Louis Kind as Barbra's stepfather. But instead of offering safety, he offered rejection. Cold, dismissive, impossible to please. He was a man who never welcomed her. Barbra, a little girl, aching for approval, tried everything, fetching his slippers, calling him dad, walking on tiptoe, so as not to disturb him. None of it mattered. Years later, she admitted bluntly, "Did he like me? No, not at all." Life in that cramped Brooklyn apartment was stifling. She shared a room with her mother and brother with no privacy, no quiet corner to dream. Not until she was 16 years old in 1958 did she finally close a bedroom door behind her for the very first time. Imagine that, 16 years without a room of her own. Perhaps that is why, in later life, she would cling so deeply to the comfort of homes and gardens, creating sanctuaries of beauty after growing up without any. Her mother's voice, instead of singing her to sleep, cut her down. Diana told her she wasn't pretty enough to be a star, that her nose was too big, her voice too odd, Barbra confessed. Later in life, she never once told me she loved me, or that she was proud of me. The sting of rejection dug deep, but it also planted something else: defiance, a fire that whispered her flaws might actually be her strength. At 16, in the summer of 1958, Barbra finally left that suffocating apartment behind and set out for Manhattan with nothing but a second-hand suitcase and a stubborn dream. There was no cheering family at the door, no mother wishing her luck, only silence and the echo of every cruel word she'd ever heard. "You're not pretty enough, your nose is too big. Your voice is strange." Those words could have stopped most girls. For Barbra, they became the very reason to keep going. The first years in New York were merciless. She lived in airless boarding houses, sometimes so cold she slept in her coat. Dinner was often no more than tea or bread. She auditioned constantly and was rejected constantly, not because her voice wasn't good enough, but because her face didn't fit the mold. One casting director, after hearing her sing with soul, dismissed her with, "You'll never make it. You don't have the face for it." But she refused to change. Friends urged her to fix her nose. Others suggested she smooth her voice. She wouldn't. "If I fail, I'll fail as me," she said. That stubborn refusal became her shield. By 1960, at just 18, she sang at a smoky Greenwich Village club in thrift store dresses. She stitched herself, and suddenly the room leaned in. Whispers of her name spread. By 1962, she landed her first Broadway role in I Get It For You Wholesale. By 19, she was impossible to ignore. Her star rose quickly. In 1964, she lit up Broadway as Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. By 1968, she stood on stage at 26 years old, clutching an Academy Award for the film adaptation. The awkward Brooklyn girl, mocked for her nose and her voice, was now Hollywood royalty. But with triumph came torment. Winning so young meant living with the terror of falling. "When you win at 26, she admitted, "there's only one way left to go down." From then on, everything had to be perfect. She obsessed over lighting, camera angles, staging, costumes. Perfection was her crown, but also her curse. The press was merciless. Comedians mocked her looks. Columnists called her difficult. Instead of celebrating her brilliance, tabloids made her a punchline. She once confessed, "People see the glamour, but they don't know the hurt. They don't know how words wound more than silence." Her deepest scar came in 1967 in Central Park in front of 130,000 people when she forgot the lyrics mid-P performance. Though her voice was flawless, her confidence shattered. For nearly 30 years, she avoided live concerts. Terrified the humiliation would return, she did not sing live again until 1994, at 52 years old. In 1963, at 21, Barbra married actor Elliot Gould. He wasn't dazzled by her fame or beauty. He saw her, the woman beneath it all. He was the first man who really saw me, she said. Their early marriage was intimate and ordinary. Small apartments, late-night rehearsals, laughter. For the first time, she belonged not to an audience, but to someone. But as her career soared, cracks appeared. Elliot's career was overshadowed. She was consumed by work, film contracts, recording sessions. In 1966, their son Jason was born, and though she adored him, she struggled to balance motherhood and ambition. I was torn in two, she admitted. By the late 1960s, tension hardened into distance. By 1971, the marriage collapsed. Barbra was 29, divorced, and devastated. It was like a death, she confessed. She had hoped love would heal her childhood wounds. Instead, she was left with scars. But out of the ashes came Jason. Her son became her anchor. In the 1990s, when he came out as gay, she stood proudly beside him, becoming a fierce advocate for LGBTQ+ rights. "My son taught me courage," she later said. Through him, she learned what unconditional love really meant. Her marriage may have ended, but Barbra's heart was far from finished. Rumors swirled of an affair with Omar Sharif during Funny Girl, their chemistry too real to be only acting. Later, she shared a bond with Canada's Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, a connection rooted in intellect and quiet respect, though their lives pulled them apart. In the 1980s, she had a brief romance with Don Johnson, all glamour and flashbulbs, dazzling but shallow. In the 1990s, she surprised the world with a fling with tennis star Andre Agassi, 28 years her junior. It was bold, thrilling, and fleeting, but it proved to her that passion could find her at any age. Then in 1996, at 54, fate introduced her to actor James Brolin. Their meeting was ordinary, even awkward. She teased him about his haircut, but instead of bristling, he laughed. That laughter disarmed her. He wasn't dazzled by the legend. He simply liked Barbra, the woman. They married in July 1998 at her Malibu estate. It was intimate, surrounded by roses and close friends. For once, the headlines were kind. Their love has endured quietly for more than 2 decades. Not built on scandal or spectacle, but on steadiness. "I was looking for someone for 50 years, she said, and I finally found him." Barbra's Malibu estate is her sanctuary. Rose gardens, koi ponds, themed pavilions filled with dolls and Americana. She calls her home her canvas. To outsiders, it may seem eccentric or lavish, but to her, every piece tells a story of survival. From her New York penthouse to her classic cars, including a 1962 Bentley and a restored 1926 Rolls-Royce. Her possessions are not vanity, but proof that the girl from Brooklyn built herself a place of permanence. With a net worth of more than $400 million, she is one of the wealthiest entertainers in history. But her true wealth is not money, it is the life she built. Quiet mornings with James, evenings with Jason, roses blooming in Malibu. Barbra's story isn't just about awards or albums, it's about endurance, about transforming wounds into resilience and heartbreak into compassion. Fame gave her fortune, but love, messy, flawed, imperfect love, gave her meaning. She showed us that even the brightest star carries shadows, that perfection can be a prison, and that the greatest triumphs often happen far away from the spotlight. In the end, her legacy is not only her music, but her courage to receive love without fear, to give it without condition, and to turn her scars into strength for others.